I guess I just want to shoot a video to encourage you if you're on this path of, just self-validation and, overcoming or lifting the imprisonment of shame and operating from a place of authenticity and just finding more inner freedom for yourself, because there have been so many times on this journey, my own journey, that I have felt utterly and completely frustrated with myself. Like, why can't I just, show up and be who I am and accept who I am? Why do I keep, falling into what feels like a trap of I'm not good enough, it's playing itself out in some different way, like I'm not pretty enough, I'm not well spoken enough, I'm not well written enough, I'm not this enough, that enough, and on and on and on. Well, so I want to encourage you to journey forward on this path, even if it gets frustrating for you, because here's the thing, is that our culture is completely penetrated, saturated with shame. And nobody really realizes, like, it's not a conversation that we're openly having. In fact, I think that the conversation, really started back when shame researcher Brene Brown did her TED Talk, which if you haven't watched, you should definitely watch. And I don't even remember when she did that video, but that video was really when, the conversation about shame started happening on a bigger level. But it's still not something that many people are well versed in. Many people are talking about in, around the dinner table or in conversations. And so it's operating on a subconscious level in our collective consciousness. So as a culture, collectively, it's operating without us even consciously recognizing it. And within ourselves, individually, it's operating most often at a core level in our subconscious. So what I mean is that we've been subscribing for perhaps our entire lives without us even realizing that we have. We've been subscribing to these beliefs that in some way we're inherently flawed, in some way we're broken. A moment of sadness comes up and we're like, what's gone wrong? Or a moment of shyness arises, in the quiver of social awkwardness. What's wrong with me? Why do I feel like this? There's so much invalidation, which is really shame driven. And yet, because we've been believing these thoughts about ourselves for so long, they've been sequestered, moved into our subconscious, so we don't even know that they're operating. It's like if we were wearing rose-colored glasses our whole lives and, we couldn't feel them on our face, we might not even realize that we're wearing rose-colored glasses. And the frustrating part comes in when, somebody like myself or Brene Brown or somebody else who's talking about shame comes out and says, here, this is what it looks like, and you start recognizing it in your life, and then you're like, ugh, I don't want this. This is the stuff that's making me feel so small. This is the stuff that's making me, feel like I'm not connected to who I truly am. This is the stuff that's making me, not speak my truth. It's holding me back. I want to get rid of this stuff because it's making me feel like poo. So you recognize it, which means you've brought it from your subconscious into your consciousness, at least on one level. Maybe you don't see it operating in all sneaky little ways throughout your life, but on one level it's come into your consciousness and you want it gone. But the deal is that just because you see it does not mean that it immediately goes away. There is a lot of conditioning, a lot of neural pathways that are operating that need to be disidentified with before you're no longer operating from a place that shame has no longer got a stronghold in your life. And this can be incredibly frustrating because when you see something that is hurting you, you want it gone. If you've got a bad habit and you realize, like, this habit isn't helping me, you don't want to go through the bad stuff. You just want the habit to be gone, right? But the deal is that you need to continue to experience the shame and move through the discomfort that shame brings in order to, disidentify with it and, not have it operate in your life anymore. So for example, I'm going to give you a personal example. Like, I turn on the video camera and the shame gremlins, as Brene Brown calls them, raise their heads, and they say things like, oh man, you don't sound good enough in that video. And so I feel like, there's like this, automatic reaction, like, oh, I need to hustle. I need to make myself sound better. I need to be something more than who I am. But then if I catch myself and I recognize that voice of shame, I can say, well, right now, it's a little uncomfortable for me to show up and just be myself, but I'm going to do it anyway. Another example is, sometimes I use this example where, you wake up in the morning and you look in the mirror, you go into the bathroom and you look in the mirror, and the shame voice comes in and says, you look terrible. You recognize that voice and you try sitting with the discomfort of feeling not good enough, feeling not pretty enough. What does it feel like? Be with yourself in that moment, and by embracing the experience that shame brings with it and just showing up for it, it's completely different than if you just subscribe to it. Like if you go into that same bathroom and you look in the mirror and your subconscious says, you look like crap. And you just believe that thought, you look in, crap. That's all you see. And you go about putting on makeup or having a shower, and you completely identified with that message. That is a completely and entirely different thing than if you go into the bathroom and you look in the mirror and you hear the voice of shame, you look like crap. And you look and you can identify that shame's speaking. There's a little bit of distance that you create from the shame. And the more and more and more that we do this, the more we keep showing up and creating a little space from the voice of shame, the less it has a stronghold in our life, and the more we can operate from a place of authenticity. But you have to keep doing it. You have to keep showing up. You have to keep being able to be on the alert and detect that voice of shame in order to see it operating in all its crazy, wild ways that it does. And keep showing up for it and keep being who you are. And eventually, the shame starts to dissipate and it plays a smaller role in your life, and you can show up more as who you truly are. So that's what I got for you, and I hope that this video has been helpful. Thanks for watching.